Welcome back to the program, sycophants. I want to apologize for my absenteeism over the last couple of weeks. I have been literally on death's doorstep for at least 10 days, close to 2 weeks, with the flu or something like that. It's just been a bitch. I have been bedridden. I have been in sad shape. So I was not in any condition to do any video. So there's my apology for you. And that's the only one you're going to get. Okay, this is a great subject. And it's perfect timing too, because I just got my auto insurance renewal in the mail this week. So let's talk about this. We haven't really talked about this in the past, but it's something you really need to think about when you're insuring your cars, or if you're thinking about acquiring another car, adding it to your insurance policy. How is this going to affect the policy you have? What kind of insurance policies are out there? How can you get the best deal? Compare and contrast all of them. So I'm just going to kind of talk about my insurance situation here with my cars and tell you what I do, and then maybe you can apply some of those things that I do with my policy to the policy that you're trying to get, or to renegotiate the one you have, or try to find a better policy. So just looking at the policy that I got in the mail, this is my renewal. I get my renewal every 6 months, but I'm going to talk about, in terms of the costs, I'm going to talk about them in yearly costs just because it's easier. Originally, actually, let's back up. Originally, when I got my 944 Turbo, this was years ago, 15, 20 years ago. That was the first real sort of sports car, collector type car I got. I think I had that insured with State Farm or something like that. And then after that, when I got the 911 Turbo, I think I moved both of those cars to American Collector Insurance. And that's a name you're probably familiar with out there. There's a whole bunch out there, you know, Leland West, Hagerty, Grundy, American Collector, Condon Skelly. I mean, there's a ton of them out there, but for whatever reason, I was able to get a good deal. And I was actually going through a local insurance agent, which was really nice to work with. So he represents a whole bunch of insurance carriers, and he can underwrite, you know, for a lot of different people and a lot of different policies and stuff. So he was able to sort of fish out the best deal for me, for the coverage that I had and the cars that I had, so on and so forth. Went from American Collector, their prices just started getting really, really high. That's pretty much the bottom line why I left them. Actually, you know, that's the only time I ever actually had to have a claim handled. And so if you want to know what kind of insurance policy you have, you really don't know until you have a claim, how the company's going to handle it for you, because otherwise it's just blue sky. And so what happened was, I had the 930 parked here in this spot where the M3 is, and I have a tire pole on the wall, and one of the tires fell off the tire pole, fell on the back whale tail, cracked the whale tail. Fortunately, the pole came down, the tires came down, but there wasn't a scratch on the car in terms of paint, but it cracked the back rubber of the whale tail and just screwed up the vents and the tail and stuff. So I had to have all that replaced and stuff. So I went to my local mechanic and got an estimate, took pictures of it, sent the estimate to American Collector, and literally within like 4 days, I had a check in the mail for the exact amount to the penny of my estimate, and they said, as far as we're concerned, the matter is closed, the case is closed, have a good day. So it was great, but they just got too expensive. So I ended up going from them, then I think I went to Grange, and now we're starting to get out of the realm of people who are really familiar with collector car policies and stuff. And so they still have sort of a division that can handle it, but they're not really good at it. And so I had to start getting appraisals on the cars and stuff. And it was just a real pain in the butt. It was a lot of legwork that had to be done. And I think at the end, when I left Grange, they wouldn't bump my valuation of the 930 above 80,000. And that's after we had 2 or 3 bump ups in the years leading up to the big air-cooled boom and stuff. So I had to eventually leave them as well. I'll talk about valuation and stuff here in a minute. But anyway, so I ended up, what happening was I put all the cars in, they're in an umbrella policy with the house and all that other stuff. So I'm able to combine a few things and save some money. So just to give you an idea of what's going on here with my cars, the Cayman is my daily driver. So it's considered my primary car, and it's treated as such for my policies. The M3 and the 930 are considered, as far as this policy calls them an exhibition automobile, okay? So they're not to be driven on a daily basis. I think there's mileage limitations to them, like, I don't know, 5,000 miles a year or something like that. They're supposed to be garaged all the time. And just a few other considerations. But what that allows me to do is allows me to insure them for an agreed value, and I'll talk about that in a second, and keep the insurance premiums down on them quite a bit. So if we go through these three cars and kind of compare their policies, let me just start off by saying each car, all three, pretty much have the exact same coverage in terms of the liability on them. So, excuse me, I'm still trying to fight this cold. I'll just go through my policy declarations here. And this is pretty much for all three cars. I pretty much have full coverage on all of them. The bodily injury is $250,000 and $500,000 per person per accident. That's usually full insurance for whoever's underwriting it. Sometimes you can get a half and a mil. So just check your policy. But no matter what you're driving, you should really be carrying full insurance. Do not get the minimum. It's like anything else. You're not going to, you don't want to ever have to use it, but when you do, you want to be fully covered for even the worst kind of situation that could possibly happen. And chances are, whoever you get in an accident with, they're not going to be insured anyways, even though legally they're supposed to be. So just expect the worst. So, excuse me, that's my bodily injury. Property damage is $100,000 per accident on all the cars. Then there's like medical payments for $5,000, which hardly anybody probably ever really uses that. My underinsured motorists on all the cars is $250,000 and $500,000 again per person per accident. And then there's some transportation and towing. That's just Mickey Mouse stuff, and usually you may have that stuff covered anyway if you're with AAA or if you're a car club or whatever. So a lot of that stuff might be redundant. You might be able to get rid of it on your policy. So just to give you a perspective on how much I'm paying for all three of these cars, my total policy for the year for all three cars is about $1,800. I don't think that's too bad at all for these three cars. Now the differences in the policies, again, are the M3 and the 930 are agreed value policies. So if you're looking to insure a car for a specific amount of money, so if I go out and I total the M3 or the 930, there's no haggling with what it's worth and how much my payoff is going to be. I know exactly what it is because we've decided beforehand what the value is. So if you're looking for that kind of policy, you want an agreed value policy. Now the other kind of policies out there that are sort of like it are stated value policies or actual cash value policies, and those are not what you want, okay? And sometimes insurance, the carriers are going to talk you into one of those, or they're going to provide you one of those because they don't provide the other and try to convince you that they're the same thing, and they're not. A stated value policy oftentimes means that if you wreck your car, the agreed stated value of $100,000, we could pay you up to $100,000 if it's totaled. They may not pay you the full 100. An actual cash value obviously is, we're just going to give you what it's worth when you wreck it. So you just got to be vigilant in getting an agreed value policy. Somewhere in your declarations page, it should say agreed value. If and when the car is totaled, we agree to pay this amount. So on my 930, the agreed value is $150,000. On the M3, it's $30,000. Of course, I don't have that on the Cayman. So to give you an idea of how the pricing breaks down for these cars, in the $1,800 a year, let's see, the 911 Turbo runs me $817 a year. The Cayman $746, and the M3 is only $243 a year to insure with an agreed value policy. Now it's interesting when we break it down how they get to those numbers, and this is the interesting part. So let's look at the Cayman and the Turbo, because those are the policies that are most closely priced. The Turbo is at at $817 a year, and the Cayman's at $746. Well, bodily injury coverage for the Cayman, it's $106 a year, and for the Turbo, it's only $26 a year. And the reason for that is the Turbo is not driven hardly as much, so there's not as much risk and liability. Same with uninsured motorists. It's $54 a year on a Cayman versus $16 on the 930. Now here's where things change. The collision coverage, which is the coverage for damage to the car and having to fix the car, it's $199 a year on the Cayman, but $378 on the Turbo. Even though it's only driven, 1/10 as much, it's almost double the cost for collision. And that's because it's just going to be a lot more expensive to replace parts and fix a 930 than it is a Cayman. And it's also a little bit more expensive in another category called other than collision, which is, I'm not exactly sure what that is. But in any case, my deductibles on all three cars are $500 a piece. You can make your deductible whatever you want. Actually, when I had American Collector Insurance, I think my deductible was $0. I didn't have a deductible. So you can make yours whatever you like to adjust your premium up and down accordingly. Now, when we look at the M3, bodily injury is $20 a year, property damage $9, medical payments $5, uninsured motorist is only $13, and collision is it's about $100. So really not that expensive. So it's only $243 a year to insure the M3 for $30,000. But it's not my daily driver. So if you're driving your M3 daily, it's probably going to be, I would assume, if you wanted to drive the M3 daily and insure, it's probably going to be very close to what I'm paying on the Cayman, because it's an 05, it's an 06, they're worth about the same. They're very similar cars, so I'm paying $746 on the Cayman. So basically, making this an exhibition car, I go from $746 a year to $243, which is fine because I'm not driving it as much. So that's what I'm paying. And one piece of advice I should give you when you're shopping for insurance is just that: shop for insurance. Before I sort of umbrellaed all of this and I left Grange Insurance, I really tried to shop these cars as much as I could, because I had to get valuations again. At least on the 930 I did, because every year, it kept appreciating, and so some of these companies wouldn't agree to the valuations of the agreed value that I wanted to insure it for. And so some companies just aren't really good at this stuff. They don't have a department that understands it. Some of them are using guides and pricing guides and valuation guides that are a year or two old. In the case of the 930, a valuation that's a year or two old is a difference in $30,000 or $40,000. Well, that's huge. So just be mindful of that. And the other thing is, I would go and get estimates for insuring these cars, and I would get one estimate from, like, I don't want to pull out the specific company because it might have just been specific to my case, but one car, it was $2,500 a year to insure. I take the same car to a different agent and it's $1,500. I take it to another one and it's $1,800. Another one and it's $900 a year. But then I say, okay, well, that's $900 a year. That's not bad. What's the cost of insuring my other two cars? Well, but then those cars are outrageous to insure with them. So I'm kind of back to square one. I want all the cars with the same insurance company on the same policy and all that good stuff. I don't want 3 cars in 3 different places. It's just too much work. So I don't think there's really any good rhyme or reason on how some of these carriers, these underwriters, are coming up with their premiums. They don't seem to make a whole lot of sense. It's almost kind of like buying an airline ticket. You know, you can fly from New York to LA for $300, but it costs $700 to go from LA to Denver. So I really can't figure out what their pricing structure and scheme and all that stuff is. Obviously, it's just, who's underwriting them and the risk assessments that they're making and all that stuff. And again, it's going to differentiate for everybody. Your age, your driving record. I have a good driving record. I haven't had a ticket in 3 or 4 years. So they take all that stuff into consideration. So what may be applicable to me is not going to necessarily be what's for you. So just go out and shop it as much as you can. And chances are, eventually, you'll find something that's halfway reasonable. And you might too, if you've got a house or whatever other investments, property, maybe you can put those in an umbrella as well and save some money. So that's what I'm paying. Who knows how long I'll stay this way. I may end up, the longest I ever stayed in any one underwriter was probably 4 years maybe, until the pricing just got out of whack. Now, fortunately, I looked at my premium from last year and I'm looking at my renewal, and the only difference is $1. So that's great. I can remember back when I was with American Collector, I think I originally insured the 930 with them. I don't know what the agreed value was. I think we agreed it at like $40,000 or something. And it was like $800 or $900 a year. And by the time I left them, it was like $1,300 or $1,400. I mean, it was just crazy how much it was going up. And they really couldn't give me a good explanation for why that was. I mean, the car was only getting older. And that was before the air-cooled boom and the valuations were going up and that stuff. So there you go. That's my situation. Go out and shop it and see what you can find. If you have any questions on auto insurance or agreed value policies, how to insure collector cars, what's the best way to go about that, let me know. Leave your questions and comments below. I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Sorry, I'm fighting this cold. I'm still short of breath. I'm going to try to kick out some more videos as best I can here in the next couple weeks. I want to do a 1-year review on the M3. That should be interesting. Give my thoughts on that. There's a few other things coming up I got in mind. Just need to get healthy, man. I'm dying here. So I think I'm slowly on the mends, but I'm still in a state of getting a little bit healthier here. So hopefully I'll be better in the next 3 or 4 days. So that's that. Like this video if you like it, dislike if you didn't like it. And subscribe today so you never miss an episode. Take care.